1,000 Old Sisters star Amy Slaton divorces her husband and turns him into the police. Amy Slaton, star of the popular reality show 1,000 Old Sisters, divorced her husband and threw him out of the house and turned him over to the police. Amy's older sister, Tammy Slaton, reportedly influenced her to make this decision. But the surprising thing is, Amy's husband was not at fault. Rather, it was Amy who mistreated him unnecessarily. Fans are shocked by this incident. Is it just a family feud, or is there another mystery behind it? The sun was setting over Dixon, Kentucky, casting a golden glow on the quiet neighborhood where Amy Slaton lived. From the outside, her home looked peaceful, just another house on a tree-lined street. But inside, a storm was brewing. Amy sat on the couch, her arms crossed, her lips pressed into a tight line. Across from her stood her husband, Michael. His face was filled with confusion and hurt. "I don't understand it, Amy," Michael said, his voice shaky. "Why are you doing this?" Amy's eyes flickered with uncertainty for a brief moment before hardening. "You need to leave, Michael. Now." Michael took a step forward, reaching out to her. "Did Tammy tell you to do this? She's been filling your head with lies, hasn't she?" Amy's jaw tightened. Tammy had been whispering in her ear for weeks, telling her that Michael was holding her back, that he didn't truly care about her dreams. "This is my choice," she snapped. But deep down, she wasn't so sure. Just then, the sound of sirens filled the air. Michael's eyes widened in shock. "Amy, what did you do?" Before he could react, 2 police officers entered the house. Michael Halterman, one of them masked. Michael looked at Amy, betrayal written all over his face. "Amy, please." But Amy turned away, unable to meet his eyes. As the officers led Michael outside, the neighbors peeked through their windows, whispering among themselves. Tammy stood on the porch, arms crossed, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips. Amy felt a lump form in her throat. Had she made a terrible mistake? Or was she finally taking control of her life? One thing was certain, there was more to this story than anyone knew, and the truth would soon come to light. However, Chris had always been protective of his younger sister, Tammy. Growing up, he had been her shield, always there to fend off any threats, be they school bullies or the occasional misguided boyfriend. But when Tammy met Jerry, things were different. Jerry seemed like a good guy at first, charming, funny, and always polite. But Chris noticed a change in Tammy ever since they started dating. She seemed distant, less happy, and more anxious. One evening, after another tense phone call between Tammy and Jerry, Chris had enough. He could no longer sit on the sidelines and watch his sister struggle. He needed answers, and he needed them from Jerry. As Chris walked to the park where Jerry had asked to meet, his thoughts raced. He had been quiet for too long, but not anymore. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. He wasn't just her brother, he was her protector. Jerry was already there, leaning against a bench, his hands stuffed into his jacket pockets. He looked up as Chris approached, a slight smirk forming on his face. "Hey, Chris," Jerry greeted him, his voice casual, almost too casual. "What's up?" Chris didn't waste any time. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low but firm. Jerry raised an eyebrow. "Talk? About what?" "About you and my sister," Chris replied. "Tammy has been acting different ever since you two started dating. She's not herself anymore." Jerry chuckled. "Oh, come on, man. Tammy and I are fine. We're happy together. She's just going through some stuff, that's all." Chris's fists clenched at his sides. He had heard those excuses before, but he wasn't buying it. "Don't give me that. I've seen how you treat her. You've been manipulating her, making her doubt herself. She's scared, Jerry, and I won't stand by while you keep hurting her." Jerry's smile faded, replaced by a flash of annoyance. "You don't know anything about us, Chris. Tammy is an adult. She can make her own choices. I know my sister better than you ever will." Chris shot back, stepping closer. "And I know when she's being controlled. If you really cared about her, you wouldn't make her feel this way. The tension between them was palpable. Jerry stood still for a moment, as if weighing his options. Then he finally spoke, his voice colder than before. "You're not the boss of her, Chris. Stay out of it." Chris didn't flinch. "I won't stay out of it, Jerry. Not when it comes to Tammy. I'll protect her from anyone, even if that means standing up to you." Jerry narrowed his eyes. For a moment, it seemed like he might argue further, but instead, he turned away and walked off. "You're wasting your time," he muttered over his shoulder. Chris watched him leave, his heart still racing. He knew the road ahead wasn't going to be easy, but he had done the right thing. Tammy deserved someone who would treat her with the respect and love she deserved. And if Jerry couldn't be that person, Chris would make sure he knew it. Later that night, Tammy called Chris, her voice trembling. "Chris, I don't know what happened, but Jerry broke up with me. He said I was too much trouble." Chris sighed, his heart aching for her. "You're not the trouble, Tammy. He was. And you deserve better." "I don't know what to do, Chris. I feel lost." "You don't have to figure it all out right now," Chris said softly. "But I'll be here for you, no matter what. You're not alone." And as he spoke those words, he knew one thing for sure. His sister would never be alone, not as long as he was there. However, it was a warm evening, the kind where the city lights seemed to twinkle just a little brighter, and the air felt crisp with the promise of new beginnings. Tammy and her boyfriend, Matt, had decided to meet for their first real date. After weeks of texting, sharing stories, and laughing over video calls, the day had finally come. Tammy was nervous, but she also felt an odd sense of excitement. As they sat at a cozy corner table in a little bistro, the soft hum of conversation and clinking glasses filled the air. Matt was charming, his easy smile making Tammy feel comfortable, but the weight of something important weighed on her chest. She had always been honest with herself, but this was different. Today, she was about to share a part of herself she'd never shared with anyone before. They ordered dinner, and the conversation flowed easily between them. Tammy had always been good at talking, but tonight, her mind kept drifting to the one thing she hadn't yet told Matt. She liked him. A lot. But there was something deeper she needed him to understand. Halfway through the meal, Matt reached for his water, his eyes sparkling as he spoke. "So, Tammy, tell me something about you that I don't know yet. Something random or weird." Tammy smiled, but the butterflies in her stomach weren't quite the good kind. She hesitated for a moment, gathering her thoughts. She had no idea how Matt would react, but she knew this was her chance to be true to herself. "Okay," she began, taking a deep breath. "Here it is. I'm pansexual." Matt's eyes blinked, and for a brief moment, the words hung in the air. Tammy wasn't sure if he fully understood, but she was determined to explain. "I mean, I don't really care about gender. I'm attracted to people, not their gender. It doesn't matter if they're male, female, non-binary, or anything in between. If I connect with someone, I connect with them. That's just how I am." Matt's expression softened. He put his glass down gently, looking at her with a mix of curiosity and warmth. "Tammy, thank you for telling me. Honestly, I think it's really cool that you're so open about who you are. I didn't know that about you, but it doesn't change anything. I like you for who you are." Tammy let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The fear she'd been carrying seemed to evaporate. Matt's response wasn't just accepting. It was kind, and it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of laughter and easy conversation. Tammy had feared that being open about her sexuality would make things awkward or uncomfortable, but it had done the opposite. It had brought them closer. As they parted ways that night, Matt gave her a smile that made her heart flutter. "I'm really glad we did this, Tammy. I like you. A lot." And Tammy, finally feeling like she could be herself, smiled back. She wasn't sure where things would go with Matt, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful about the future, knowing that she didn't have to hide who she was. However, Tammy had always been a shy and anxious girl. Growing up in a small town, her world was limited to familiar faces, quiet streets, and a predictable routine. But everything changed when her older sister, Emma, invited her to London for the summer. Tammy's heart raced with both excitement and fear. She had never been to a big city before, let alone a place as bustling and busy as London. The idea of crowded streets, tall buildings, and unfamiliar faces made her stomach churn. What if she got lost? What if she couldn't keep up with Emma and her friends? These thoughts clouded her mind as they boarded the plane to London. As soon as they arrived, Tammy felt overwhelmed. The airport was massive, and the noise from all the people made her feel small and invisible. Emma noticed her sister's unease and gently took her hand. "Don't worry, Tammy. We'll take it one step at a time. London is a beautiful city, and you'll get used to it. Trust me," Emma said with a reassuring smile. Tammy nodded, but her fear still lingered. The first day was filled with hesitation. Tammy clung to Emma, walking slowly through the crowded streets, avoiding eye contact with strangers. She felt out of place, like a fish out of water. The next day, Emma suggested they visit the famous Tower of London. Tammy was hesitant, but Emma insisted it would be fun. As they stood in front of the towering stone walls, Tammy felt a wave of panic. She was terrified of heights, and the thought of going inside a fortress full of history made her anxious. "Let's just take a look, Tammy. If you don't like it, we can leave," Emma said. With a deep breath, Tammy agreed. They walked through the gates and explored the ancient rooms, feeling the weight of history all around them. Surprisingly, Tammy found herself fascinated by the stories of kings and queens, battles, and legends. Slowly, her fear began to fade. She realized that the world around her wasn't as frightening as she had imagined. Over the next few days, Emma took Tammy on various adventures, riding the London Eye, walking through the bustling markets of Covent Garden, and taking a boat ride along the River Thames. At first, Tammy felt nervous, but with each new experience, her confidence grew. She started to appreciate the beauty of the city, the way the sun reflected off the river, the way the old and new buildings blended together, and the vibrant energy of the people. One afternoon, as they were walking through Hyde Park, Emma noticed a change in Tammy. She was no longer clinging to her, no longer looking down at her shoes. Tammy had started to walk with her head held high, a smile playing on her lips. "You're doing great, Tammy," Emma said, nudging her sister playfully. Tammy looked up at the tall trees surrounding them and took a deep breath. "I think I'm starting to like it here," she admitted, her voice full of surprise. As their trip neared its end, Tammy felt a sense of accomplishment. She had faced her fears and had come to love the city she once dreaded. London had taught her something important, that the world was full of possibilities, and that stepping outside her comfort zone could lead to incredible experiences. When it was time to return home, Tammy felt a sense of pride. She had overcome her fear of the unknown and had learned to embrace new challenges. She knew that, no matter where life took her, she would always remember her summer in London, the city where she found the courage to be herself. However, Amy and Tammy had always shared a deep bond, one that went beyond just being sisters. They were partners in everything, from their daily routines to their dreams of making a mark in the world. Their weight loss journey was well documented, but today, the two sisters had set aside all their worries for a different kind of challenge. Today was all about fun, food, and a little bit of magic in the kitchen. It had been a quiet Saturday morning when Amy suggested, "Why don't we try making pesto today?" Tammy, always up for an adventure, immediately agreed. "I've never made pesto from scratch. It sounds fun. Let's do it." The two of them went to the kitchen, Amy bringing out the ingredients: fresh basil, pine nuts, garlic, olive oil, parmesan, and of course, a good dose of humor. "Let's make this pesto like it's never been made before," Amy said with a mischievous grin. Tammy laughed, her laughter echoing through the kitchen. "You know, Amy, we're 1,000 olives of sisterly love and determination. If we can't make the perfect pesto, no one can." Amy laughed too. "Exactly. We've got this." They set to work. Amy chopped the basil with care, while Tammy handled the garlic. Between the chopping, They exchanged stories from their childhood, each memory tied to a scent or flavor from their family kitchen. The more they worked, the more the kitchen filled with the fragrant aroma of fresh basil and garlic, the air thick with the promise of a delicious creation. "Are we doing it right?" Tammy asked as she crushed the pine nuts in the mortar and pestle. Amy nodded, her concentration unwavering. "Absolutely. It's all about the texture. Not too smooth, but not too chunky. It's a balance." The pesto started to come together, and so did their bond. The small kitchen, usually quiet, was now alive with the sound of the sisters laughing, cooking, and making memories. For Amy and Tammy, it was a reminder of how far they had come. The journey wasn't just about losing weight. It was about supporting each other, lifting each other up, and sharing moments like this. Finally, after much stirring and tasting, they had made the perfect pesto. "It's amazing," Tammy exclaimed, tasting a spoonful. "I think this is the best thing we've ever made." Amy smiled, her heart full. "It's the best because we made it together." The two sisters, who had fought through so many struggles, sat down to enjoy their homemade pesto with pasta, laughing, and savoring every bite. That afternoon, the world outside didn't matter. It was just them, their love for each other, and the magic of making something together. The 1,000 bulbs of sisterly strength they had built over the years had become their greatest asset, and in that moment, they knew they could take on anything as long as they had each other. However, Tammy and Amy were best friends, but they had a bit of a quirky friendship. Both were full of life, always teasing each other, yet always had each other's backs when things got serious. One sunny afternoon, they decided to sign up for a burlesque class to spice things up. When they first walked into the dance studio, they were greeted by an array of colorful costumes, shiny heels, and a room filled with confident women. Tammy immediately felt out of place. She was a little more reserved, but Amy was all about the spotlight. "Come on, Tammy. It's all about confidence," Amy said, pulling Tammy to the front of the class. As the class began, the instructor, a fiery woman named Roxanne, led them through a series of slow, seductive movements. Tammy tried to follow along but felt awkward and stiff. Amy, on the other hand, was practically a natural, twirling and shimmying with a smile that could light up the room. The class was going well until it was time for the infamous shimmy and sway move. Amy, always the show-off, gave it her all. But this time, she didn't realize that her big, curvy figure caused a bit of chaos. As she swayed and twisted, her movements were so dramatic that she accidentally knocked over a nearby lamp with her hips, sending it crashing to the floor. Everyone in the room burst into laughter, including Tammy, who couldn't hold back. "Amy," Tammy said, still chuckling, "your big ass is going to blind everyone here at this rate." Amy, unfazed by the accident, spun around dramatically and said, "Well, they better get used to it." The entire class erupted in laughter, and even Roxanne, the instructor, gave her a thumbs up for the unintentional comedy. By the end of the class, both Tammy and Amy had embraced the fun and craziness of burlesque. Tammy finally let go of her self-consciousness, while Amy, well, she kept rocking that shimmy like it was a personal superpower. The duo left the class that day laughing so hard, and though Tammy might not have felt totally confident yet, Amy's big personality, and yes, her big ass, had definitely won the hearts of everyone in the room.